Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's got so much of a.
See now?
I was going to do
Turn your mag light on. Well, I don't have to sort of concentrate on the light as well as speaking. It's easy to do one or the other.
Okay.
I'm not being mean, but it is. It's like.
Okay.
That's not on your face, that's it. Do you want to shine yours as well?
No, Randy, turn yours off.
Do you want it on your face? Do it.
That's even better. All right, Randy. This one. Go like that.
You're doing a slow one with this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can keep your lights wherever you want. Over their head, or you want to. Just try and keep your heads kind of still.
No problem.
Don't point your flashlight at the camera.
Point it at you.
On your face.
Are you on something?
That's good.
He's tired.
Get their whole body. Just go up and down.
I'd like to be. Fred, he's a photographer.
I'm a model.
Oh, it's got some big lens on it, Jen.
Has indeed.
Never get to see it.
Is that where you were looking?
Yes.
Hyper aware I am.
Okay. Two more.
I had just briefly looked at research, the new modern primitives. You should be up on stage, right?
Probably will be later.
Okay. Thank you.
What do you think of everything? Okay, darling.
Okay. What I wanted to know was, what is the ideal role of psychic TV in the temple, and how close are you to achieving it?
The ideal role of PTV within the temple.
Within the temple.
The shock troops and the missionaries, the holy roller preachers, I guess. The nice thing that somebody said, this really straight middle-aged promoter in Oklahoma City came up afterwards and he said, thank you. He said, seeing psychic TV live is not a gig, it's a religious experience. And he said that with no prompting. He'd read nothing about us except like an ordinary press release. And he sussed it out. That's what we aim for. And we're there as a unifying factor to put people at ease and give them, in different ways, the sensation they can have access to the information we may have or the people we may know, and to each other, whether we're there or not from then on. And that really happened perfectly in Oklahoma City. At the end, we were playing this improvised go-go beat on drums, and two black rappers jumped up and started rapping.
Wow.
Which was fantastic, because, it's never happened before, but it's something that we would hope could happen. And while they were rapping, there was a 12-year-old boy who met Billy Idol and Johnny Rotten when he was 6, dancing himself crazy. And then there was Fred playing like acid guitar like Hendrix. And everybody in a place had this massive smile on their face.
Wow.
Like, this is what's supposed to be able to happen. Could you be quiet? We're doing an interview, boys. So, good.
So when psychic TV works, we take shortcuts. We can take shortcuts which aren't, because it is a performance, we can take shortcuts to people's consciousness that the temple would take longer to do. And in that way we can give a brief picture of what the temple is trying to achieve in a performance. And it's kind of an illustrated tour.
So how are you trying to get this across in albums? I mean, I know you're doing a series of 23 live albums.
Well, the new LP is the most important one so far. And that's called Towards the Infinite Beat. That's on Wax Trax Records from Chicago.
Has it come out here in America yet?
Out this week.
Out this week.
And in terms of the ideas on it, the way it's structured, and the words, it's the most accurate condensation of the theoretical side, but with easy words. It's like there's easy words there, but when you start to take them in and absorb them, then it's very much a parable as well. And really also with Psychic TV, what we've come to rest with as a function is that music at the very beginning of recorded time, humane being time, would be people outside caves who'd struggled to stay alive that day, and they'd be in their furs, like the Clan of the Cave Bear, if you've seen that film. And they'd hit bones and stones and sticks. And then the storyteller, the wise person, would tell the stories and sing the songs that tried to make sense of the phenomena around them and the environment and their history and their future, and why there was lightning, and why there were great big mean animals that killed, and why there were tiny little ones that looked after you, and so on. That has not changed. That is where music, rock and roll, whatever, began. And I really believe now that is the only valid function for a live musical experience. That's the core reason to do it, the functional reason. And that's what we try and do, and that's why we don't rehearse and we improvise, and I don't write lyrics down anymore. And my function with my mouth is to be the storyteller that night. And the band are the musicians who enhance and generate and trigger that story, as well as the audience. And that's why when it gets to a certain point, people start to realize this is very organic. We are affecting what we hear. If we're dancing, they play more dance beats. If we're grinning, they make jokes, and so on. And whatever we're doing is coming back like that. So you get this kind of figure of eight, the infinite beat, you know, this spiral going like this. From you to me, and you to thee, and round and round. And that's the search, is to find places to celebrate being with people and speaking with them in an amplified way. So that's what if you like, I think I'm a troubadour, I'm a storyteller, a nomadic storyteller, and you have to make stories apparently simple, like all great parables or Sufi sayings or Zen sayings. It's like, oh yeah, there was no complicated words. And then you start to think, and there's a resonance that goes deeper and deeper until you think, shit, that was...
that loop.
Yeah. That's like a map I can work with now. And that's... I'm not saying we always achieve it, but that's what we're looking for. Those really simple stories that resonate for a long time. That people can hold with them and fall back on when they're confused, or they can visualize a picture of being there with us and everyone else that night. Well, that implies that we're the myth and we're not the myth. There are myths, that's sure, but we're just the storytellers. It's that simple.
But,
you know, and I mean, even like Bob Dylan, when he was at his peak, he was a storyteller. You know, I mean, if you think back, Jim Morrison was a storyteller. And he said, this is me, this is me, that's me, this is me, that's you, this is me, that's me. And here I am, and I am your storyteller because you want me to tell you my stories and they're your stories. And Jimi Hendrix was a storyteller. You know, I mean, if you think about it, all those people, Grace was a storyteller. There's no question about it. You know, Janis Joplin was a storyteller. She did it more with her body and her voice than with the words, but she was telling a hell of a story. And I think that is really the key. You know, even down to people like the Sex Pistols. For a little while, they were telling a story that made sense too. And that's the job of the live band, is to be that for people and to allow that to happen.
When do you feel the most power when you perform live? What is the ideal psychic?
When I get the most, sometimes there's this like almost a click in the group collective mind, and it switches on, and you look round, and every face you see has the same kind of sparkly eye, and usually a smile or a very intense. And you look round and you know that you don't have to say another word. That they know who you are and you know what they are, and it's a feeling. Suddenly there's this just feeling that's... We don't have very good words, which is unity.
Equivalent to that old phrase of contact high.
Yeah, it's true. And you just feel it go juddering through, and suddenly it could go on all night and anything can happen and it all makes sense.
Because at that point it stops becoming an intellectual apparatus and it becomes an emotional and a psychical one. And that's what we all yearn for. It's not always achievable. And it's a question of collaboration between the group and the audience. I mean, when I say collaboration, it's a participation between the two. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, we know it and they know it, and it's like a recognition within each other.
And everybody knows they've just got hold of this little gem they can keep for a long time.
How is the audience, us being a group, you performing, us being part of the experience, what is the greatest thing the audience can do to help you guys get that buzz on the stage?
The simplest things are to not look at us as entertainers, to see us just as the generators of the sounds and motions and words. Not even look, but dancing. Dancing into a trance, dancing till you're exhausted and sweating, and all you're doing is feeling it. You're lost completely in it. That is really a good way to make it work. And the other thing is to smile. Those two things alone usually do it. To dance yourself insane and smile. And then you'll feel it. Just works. I mean, people have known it for thousands of years. The dervishes and the master musicians of Shujuka, who we work with now. I mean, they saw us and they just understood straight away what we're doing. They didn't ask us to explain it. They just went, let's play together. Because they could tell it was exactly the same process, you know? It's like rhythms that go on and on and on, high frequencies, ecstatic dancing. That's it.
I spent some time in London, and one of the things that's bothered me, and I'd like to get your view on this, is that it seems that in England the kids responded when the acid house scene began and the dancing scene began, but in America they're almost afraid to really get into that level of looking beyond who the artist is, and they're afraid with the context of disco to really go beyond it. What do you see a definite difference between the English climate and European climate with house music in America?
Sure. We've been all around America. I haven't met one black person yet, and I meet them every town. Not one knew what house music was yet. Because we've been down all the west coast and round the bottom and up the middle. They don't know what it is. And it's their music, right? I mean, tomorrow we're playing Chicago. Of course they know what we're doing, right? It's something we've noticed, and it's really... It seems like we're getting the job of being the educators, which is okay. And certainly people do get to know what we're doing. I would say there's no less than 50 people a night that completely suddenly get this message. It's a non-verbal message.
Yeah, I went to some of the raves in London. I was completely mesmerized.
Well, the raves have become exactly what we predicted 3 years ago, which is the DJs. I mean, we've got our own on now, right? The DJs. And we've got a DJ who does our live mixing, Richard. Drummer's a DJ. The DJs and the musicians and the better live bands are all collaborating and playing 8-hour gigs. We do 5 hours minimum in London.
Yeah.
And there's so much smoke and lights and that. No one even knows. Some people have seen us and they said, I didn't even see you for 3 hours. Didn't even know whether you were on or whether it was tapes. You know. And you're right, they don't care whether we're on. What they care about is to get lost in it. And when we play small clubs, we get 1,000 people in. That's when we had to turn away 500 more. And we played 5 hours. And from the first 3 minutes, they were dancing themselves to a true frenzy. But it was a happy frenzy. And it's the most amazing experience. You know what it's like. It's great. It's unless you've done it or been in it, it's just incredible. The Happy Mondays, who are from Manchester like me, and the Inspiral Carpets, who are from Manchester like me, and the Shaman, they're all doing the same thing, and without blowing our own trumpet. They used to be in the front row at our gigs for years. But they understood what we were doing.
Yeah.
And they went away and said, yeah, this feels good. And they came back doing their way of doing it, not our way, their way, with bits of us and a lot of them. And that's great. There's about 6 bands now that are doing rave music. And that's what the posters that we did through Wax Tracks, which you've obviously not seen, just says the rave goes on. You know, and we've been trying to explain to all these promoters that this is a rave. It's not a gig. And the idea of the rave, I mean, rave in England means raving mad. It means like, you know, induced madness, which is like psychedelics. Yeah. And the new album we've got, Towards the Infinite Beat, which is like with the words and the songs. And then simultaneously we've released Beyond the Infinite Beat, which is rave, DJ rave remixes, which are just really heavy bass, so that people can spin in what the hell they want at home or at clubs, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very open-ended thing. And the whole idea really is that everybody's included. You can come in where you want and be as involved as you want.
So that
people play every night somebody different plays my guitar. Caress, who's 8, played it in Dallas. And last night she did Are You Experienced by Hendrix.
Yes.
And like in all this craziness with people stage diving, they all went, they did it, but they kept away from her. She stood there and she did Are You Experienced for 10 minutes. And at the end, they just gave her a standing ovation. And that Oklahoma was so good because it was like an 8-year-old singing to hundreds of people who understood that she can do it too. She was not intimidated by them because they were like giving her a friendly, supportive feeling, even though they were apparently mad to the outside observer. You could tell there was no danger and everything was just positive energy, you know, coming to them. And 20-odd-year-old black rappers felt they could include themselves. I mean, that is quite amazing, that there's no boundaries, that everyone can be there and participate. Yes, to answer your basic question, I wish America was doing all of this all the time, because it would just remove so much crap so fast. It's so cathartic. Yeah, it's all this snobbery, you know. This is, you know, that's hip hop, that's house, that's rap, that's this, that. Doesn't mean anything anymore. The beat is the primal, original, humane beat that we inherit, that our bodies breathe. And the high frequencies make the brain release its own endorphins, so that we get a high. I mean, the Christians know what they're doing. They have cathedrals. They have really deep resonant notes on the organ. Little boys squealing high notes to release the endorphins. Then when you're completely high with the resonance of the building, a man walks on and speaks all this subliminal propaganda. I did an interview for national radio in England before we left with this priest, and he was doing this thing on satanic music, or Stan. we decided to call Satan Stan. We missed out the first day, and it makes him much more homely, you know, Stan. And he was talking away about these heavy metal bands and blah, blah, blah. He didn't know what we did. He thought I was a music expert. Well, I suppose I am, but he didn't know me as anything but a music expert. Nobody told him my background, you see, which was quite funny. And I wore a priest's outfit with a dog collar and everything. So he was feeling really happy with me, you know, like he must understand. He was talking away about what they do to manipulate people. And then he said, do you know any other system that uses these techniques? And I said, well, yeah. And then I did what I said to you. I described a cathedral. I didn't tell him what it was. There's these big buildings. They use these really deep bass notes, then these high-pitched notes. And then when people are in this otherworldly, ecstatic trance, somebody comes on and starts to tell them all these heavy propaganda things to change their morality. And he goes, oh, that's outrageous. Where's that? And I said, every church and cathedral on Sunday. And he went... And that's when he realised that I wasn't quite as sucker as he thought I was. They didn't use it on the programme. After he left the house, he said to them, I'm not using any of that interview. But I've got it on tape. I taped it as well. And the other great thing was he was like doing this, and he had his back to this window in our house, and in the background in the house, which the radio producer saw, but this guy never noticed, is a full-size figure of Jesus hanging upside down from a tree that was stolen from a church. And it sprayed day glow, right? And all the time he's talking to me, and I'm wearing a priest's outfit, and Emmett, who lives with us, went and met him in a car dressed as a priest. He didn't know that we were taking a piss. He was so blinkered and sort of on his one idea, the only idea of his life, which he inherited anyway. Didn't even see the rest. That's really like... sums it all up, you know. That's the world we're dealing with. All around him were all these stories that should have made him very wary and paranoid. He didn't even see it. He walked straight into this brick wall, and what can he do? Can't deal with it either. Yeah. Well, we do deal with brick walls and the truth. Yeah. You know, and we'll always check them out. Because what are we going to do? Lose our lives? Big deal, you know. What's that in infinity? You know, great.
What are you doing with
I mean, I'm not reckless, but I'm prepared to take risks. Mentally and physically, you know.
What are you doing with video now?
With what?
I haven't seen a whole lot of video coming out in this country.
It's because we've got no money.
Yeah.
But we're going to do some more when we get back, hopefully. Tom's been doing more than us.
Right.
Video and stuff. He does all the light shows. He's burned out lights.
Yeah.
And also, Tom runs all of Topi US as well for him.
Yes, because I was on the Topi in England list.
Suck that pinky. Is Fred back?
No, where's Matthew? Maybe they found a record store.
What, Mr. and Mrs. Ginelli?
They found a 24-hour record store.
Do you agree that there's a line that can be reached either way? I know that there was a lot of ecstasy and LSD.
Still is.
And,
Unfortunately, they don't have much around here.
definitely not. Do you think you can be achieved either way? Do you believe that?
You don't need to do that, no. Obviously, I mean, one of our key loops that we've used on records to make it clear is designed to produce the psychedelic experience through the use of light, colour and sound. And dancing. I mean, you can do that. But from the very beginning of time, and there's a song we do tonight called Intoxication, and there's a book called Intoxication that's very interesting. It's just all about animal behaviour and from the insect world up, how all animals that we know of get intoxicated if there is something in their area they can get intoxicated with. So it's actually completely natural for all living organisms to become intoxicated. It's probably essential for sort of hygiene and who knows what else, psychic hygiene. But we are basically the only ones who seem to have lost the filter for control of it, partly because most animals and organisms take seasonal intoxicants. Like they'll know when this particular tree flowers, where if they eat the berries they get high for 4 days. You know, like there's some birds I can't remember the name of that do this, and they fly around like insane, and then the berries are gone, and that's it, and they can't get stoned again for another year. You know, whereas we've actually learned how to keep getting intoxicated every day. So no one's sure whether that's unnatural to be intoxicated or have that potential every day. But to become intoxicated is natural. It's a natural state. Nobody's really done enough discussion on the idea that before the atomic bomb, which is more or less the same time that LSD became available, all really heavily psychedelic shamanic drugs were quite carefully controlled by an elite, the wise people, the shaman, the high priest, etc., the initiates in different, whatever the words there were. Since then, it's the first time ever in human history that the shamanic experience on some level, the otherworldly experience, the revelatory experience, has been basically available to anybody who looks. And the implications of that being possible have not been addressed. I mean, Timothy Leary and people started to try and address it. And look what happened to them, you know. I mean, like, got 30 years in prison. And
Do you think that's positive?
well, nobody knows. I mean, it's an unknown quantity, just like nuclear physics and so on. Nobody knows. But people aren't addressing it on that level, you know. We have, whether we like it or not, millions, literally, of people, of individuals who have once or multiple times, to some degree, experienced the initiatory high priest, high priestess experience, the unfolding or the folding in on itself of the universe and time. That is a fact. That has to be addressed and looked at, and the implications dealt with very carefully, you know, because we're not trained. Our culture doesn't let us grow up learning that if you get to a certain point, you are shamanic. Okay, we'll take you to one side, and the wise people will lead you through this path, so that you know all the techniques, you know how to deal with what you see, you know how to find balance and so on. Well, like the Native Americans, you know, I mean, it's all very clear. All of the cultures, they deal with that. And I actually think Timothy Leary and the Castelia people were right to say that setting and some kind of initiate to be with you and guide you and give you information is very important. And their concepts of having places to go where you could learn the techniques before you went out on your own are sensible. I mean, they were making very sensible suggestions to the governments, and the governments just didn't want to know. And and now they're living with the results that they invoked deliberately, probably, because they like to destroy the cell of imagination, you know.
I think it's very scary. I mean, it seems to me that they've been trying to program bad trips into people for the last 30 years. So
well, they admit now all those stories they made up were completely fabricated of like bad trips. They just made them up. It's just a dirty tricks campaign. You know. But I agree with people when they say there's no such thing as a bad trip. There's scary ones. There's trips where you just see ugliness.
Yeah.
I had one the other day. Somebody slipped me 2 tabs of mescaline saying it was E. They shouldn't be on the air or whatever.
Oh, don't worry.
All right. And I just suddenly noticed everything going and thought, this wasn't E, this is psychedelics, right? It's really powerful mescaline.
Wow.
It's brilliant. But I just thought, well, okay, so here we go, 12, 14 hours away. And I was in New Orleans, and I just saw like the primal ooze of New Orleans, and I saw all the ugliness of it and the voodoo-ness of it. But I didn't think I was having a bad time. I just thought I was having a revelation about the essence of New Orleans and like the whole place and the geography and the ground. I could, you know. And I said to everyone on the bus, I said, like, probably if someone was slipped this and didn't know what it was, they'd be saying, I'm having a bad trip, this is ugly, this is horrible, I don't want to look at this. But it wasn't that. It was just another side of what's breathing in everything. And it wasn't bad or good, it was just really very primal. It was very South America. I mean, that's how I knew what it was. I mean, it's like I got all these Mayan kind of archetypes and that without wanting them. I mean, I had no... That's how I knew it was mescaline. I couldn't control them. You know, with acid you can like decide what you want to see and stuff. No way with this, you know. It wasn't the shadows or anything. I was seeing it, you know. It's like it was there. And I was like, this woman with this mini, she was saying, I was saying, you've got all these faces. She's like black. And I think all her ancestry flashing through, male, female, beard, you know, it's hundreds and hundreds going right back through her genetic code. She said, tell me them all. I said, it's too fast. And she's like making jokes. I was trying to tell her a few. And I said, I hope you don't want me to tell you about all those people stood behind you as well. Because there were all these spirits everywhere. But it was great. I just took it as being very fortunate to be able to see so much, you know. And it's there. It wasn't my imagination building it, because, you know, I can tell the difference. I'm used to what is my mind making me see and what is something coming to you, you know.
Well, there are so many people that I know, at least here in America, where LSD has become this very popular drug. I mean,
again, it is again.
It's very strange how popular it is, because people don't seem to experience the same kind of things. And a friend of mine was saying, you know, it's like people do this and they do this, say, 10, 20 times and have a really great time, and then they do it once and suddenly come back and say, wow, I'm never doing that again. It fucks with you, because, I mean, it's just so much the like, oh, I'm just seeing pretty pictures, and it's the drug, and people who don't understand that this is something within themselves. This is something that is within themselves, that they have the capacity for these.
It's very powerful, but, you know, yeah, you're right. I'm curious to get back to what you say. I mean, like, there's all these kids in Britain now, millions of them, who've taken ecstasy like week after week after week, and then they started taking ecstasy and then dropping acid. Will it make them think differently or not? Or will they only ever see it as entertainment? You know, I mean, like, when we play, as you can see, it seems most of them see it as entertainment. But there are some who don't, and they tend to start to orientate to us without, again, being arrogant. They just do, because they come to us and they see that there's some more understanding of those other levels, and they can go to a stall and get books about it, or get tapes, or be told, here's an address to write to if you want to know what we feel about this and that it's about perceptions altering. And, you know, we're here to say, when you start to think that something's changing, you're not crazy, you're not on your own, you're actually just starting to feel yourself again, you know. And we're here to reassure you that this is actually you getting back to being your in balance. You know. So we think that is our function as well, is to be available in any way we can, through any medium, video, film, books, just talking.
I feel we should have the right to reach that level.
Of course.
Everywhere you turn, everyone's saying it's evil, it's wrong.
Well, they say that about everything that makes sense.
Still does.
You know, I mean, it's almost like an unwritten equation, isn't it, really? Which is why we started using this phrase, you know, pleasure is a weapon. Because it's like confrontate, you know, with punk you had nihilism and confrontation and self-destruction and anger and violence. For a little while it worked, but like at the end of the day, what terrifies the authorities the most? Pleasurable revelation. Because you can never convince somebody who's seen something they know is a closer picture of reality and enjoyed it that it was a bad idea. Doesn't matter what you do to them. You can make them confess with torture, but their mind and their spirit know that they were right and what they saw was nature. And that is why they come down on all these things the hardest. They ban acid house, but they don't fucking ban heroin addiction and shit, you know. They give free needles, but they won't let you get near ecstasy. And why is there suddenly no ecstasy anywhere in the world? Same trip that happened in the 60s with acid.
I found it funny because I used
and then people are going, well, have this speed instead, or have this stuff which has got this in it and that in it, and crack and ice and shit, you know.
Anything that...
It's no way an accident.
That's psychoactive is illegal. And totally illegal.
Always.
Morphine. You can get
They
that
don't
from your
like.
doctor.
You can't go and say, look, I take E all the time, so can I be put on prescription in England?
Yeah.
But you can go and say, I take heroin all the time and get it on prescription. Now that says something.
Because it makes you docile.
Exactly. And if they're both Class A drugs, so what are they saying? Right? They're saying something really pathetic and unpleasant, you know. It's true though. You go to a doctor in England and say I'm a speed freak, they'll give you speed. You go say I'm a heroin addict, you get heroin. Say I'm on crack, they'll look after you. Say I take psychedelics, they don't give you any free.
So they weren't off stage till 10:20.
And yet they're saying it's the same, it's debilitating, it's addictive, blah blah blah. So they, you know, there in a nutshell is the truth. They know very well it's different. They know very well it's not addictive. They know very well it's not debilitating. Right?
You're always right, Matthew.
So it's just a game they play with us all. But it's a loser's game. What are they going to do? They're going to tell these people down in the Amazon basin that they're not seeing spirits and understanding the universe and able to be telepathic and read synchronicity? Of course they can. They can kill them, which is what they're doing. They can't tell them that they're not seeing what they're seeing or feeling it. And we've been really fortunate. We've been working a lot with the Cheyenne Apache shaman. And he's taught us so much in 2 years about how to understand what we've always felt. With these little simple stories to get back. With these little maps. These stories about there were 2 squirrels. And one of them was really sensible and would go away and hoard all of his nuts all the time, so when the winter came he'd have lots of food to eat. And the other squirrel was really irresponsible, would just eat the nuts and wander around and borrow a few off friends, enjoy the summer and leap around, have a really good time and not worry about the winter. And then the winter came and the happy-go-lucky squirrel went to this other one who was careful and said, give me some of your nuts, I'm hungry. So, of course, you know, have some. You know. And eventually all the other squirrels who'd had a good time kept coming to him and saying, give me some of your nuts. Give them away, because he was so kind and sensible. And then he had no more nuts and he died. That's an American Indian story. It's quite an unusual ending. Think about it.
Well, your average person here in America hears a different version of that story.
Exactly.
Because the one who saved up all the nuts, he went just fine.
And the idea is you have to all be the same as each other and just share all the time. Yeah. Where's this?
Don't know the time to go.
Oh, look at that. That's great.
Wow.
This one's weird. It's like how you're moving.
Well, this is last time, look. This is the other tour.
The most fascinating thing about pictures is that you always look like at least 10 different people in 10 different pictures.
Who does?
Anybody,
yeah. That's nice with this hand coming to this hand, look. That's great because this hand, look, coming up to that hand. And the shadow of a hand there. Oh, look at that. Hang on.
Was that in New Orleans?
No, this is 2 years ago.
Wow. Because I saw the show a year ago in Chicago at Dreamers. And
2 years.
2 years? 80, yeah, it was 88.
It's a good show, wasn't it? That was one where it kind of took off on its own, that one. There was something going on that night, and it's like everyone was just going, yeah. That was good. What are these? How are we getting on? What's this for, anyway?
What's this for? Well,
can't be on the radio, that's for sure.
Well, no, actually, it's not going to be on the radio. Well, it might be. I don't know. I've done several, like, one-shot fanzine kind of things and enjoy writing stuff for publication. You should
also, if you want to, have you got the book that's for sale, Eso Terrorist?
I saw it up there, and I was going to get it as I was leaving.
Get one, because if you get that, you can incorporate any bits you want in it as well. Quote anything that seems relevant.
Great, because
We've got to go work.
I need a wee-wee first.
Well,
Is there a toilet down here?
Yeah, just over there.
Where?
Just that one.
Okay.
great. Well, I'll
Tell
also...
Darren hello.
I will do so. And
I'm glad we got a chance to talk.
Oh, I'm glad too. I'll be seeing you in Chicago
See you on
too.
stage.
Oh, right, tomorrow night. Well, if you find any E, get me one.
I will certainly let you know.
Because everyone says I sparkle on stage when I have my one E.